I came across this thought in my travels, just based on the brevity of my experience, and figured, I just dropped something, unedited, and just, freestyled off the top. This is just based off of the brevity of my experiences, just things that, I've encountered and noticed, within the years, and I think, us as men, we often confuse spite with vengeance. We mislabel behaviors and actions that we receive from, females and engagement. And we mainly do that because, a lot of us aren't disciplined, nor do we understand discipline. It took me a little bit to get the gist of it, so I'm not going to sit there and say I came out of the womb, with this level of clarity, But what I can say, I've seen the difference in relationships, in classrooms, and, within work settings. See, you have to understand spite is an emotional reaction versus vengeance being, an intentional restraint. See, spite leaks and vengeance waits. It's patient, not kind. See, if someone can't control themselves, they're not really dangerous. You got to keep that in mind when you're dealing with people in general. Give you a better understanding of the human relations, right? Now, for an example, I can use my child's mother. The tone steady and no anger. Because it's easy. Once you understand something, you really don't lose that position unless you're not disciplined. Meaning, I've watched my children's mother switch up when her perceived idea of what she thinks control is, or what she thinks give and take actually is, right? I've watched her tone, change up. I watched her energy switch, and her moves just became more reactive. But in the process of everything, I didn't. I stayed consistent, with the same boundaries, the same calm, the same behavior. Meaning, I didn't escalate anything, I didn't retaliate, and most importantly, I didn't perform. See, when someone is in the event of their emotions and they're being spiteful, what they want you to be emotional, because that's their levers. Those are their pawns. Those are their pieces they need to work against you. Those are your chinks. And me knowing that, what I gave her in return was nothing but the consistency of who I said I am and what I said I'm going to do and how I'm going to carry things out. It's just that simple. See, I understood that there was no long-term plan. It was only short-term reactions. It's acting on a moment of weakness, not saying she's a bad person or a good person, but is one that has to grow, as I've had to grow and become who I am. I've even noticed the same experience and pattern, with a former female manager from back in the day. When she was challenged, her response wasn't a stratagem. It was more so like a withdrawal. That's when I noticed, my hours had shifted. My access changed. Distance replaced explanation. What I noticed, that wasn't vengeance. That was discomfort. Because vengeful people don't need to punish loudly. spiteful people do. You know, just like I give you another example. My freshman English professor in college. Even then, I seen it, but I really didn't understand exactly what it was until years later. You know, it's usually when authority, you know, it felt like it's questioned, right? You notice how the grading shifted, the tone shifted, but the structure didn't, and it didn't improve, and it didn't clarify anything. You know, that's how you know it's spite, and you know, nothing actually gets better from that, just only tighter. You know, it's just different women, different environments, same behavior, same outcome. See, spite reacts to get control. Vengeance doesn't need control because it already has intent. That's why, you know, spite burns fast, if you've ever noticed. And one thing I did notice about me is that my power back then, even up until right now and beyond, was never silent. And the reason why I was never silent, because it was always consistent. You know, same composure, same routine, same standards. Because or isn't an attitude, or is predictability under pressure. See, if someone needs you to feel what they're doing, that's spite. You know, if they don't care whether you notice at all, that's intent. That's vengeance. Vengeance is more skilled and disciplined and concentrated. Spite isn't. Spite is reactionary, in the moment, foolish. You know, it's more ways to just understand how things work. You know, so this is just, you know, off the cuff. I hope it, you know, was helpful to you. You know, blessings and peace.